Hey everybody, it's the Commodore from the Clan of the Grey Wolf, and you are watching the weekly Wringer series here on clanofthegraywolf.com. Now you'll have to first excuse me for two reasons. One is my voice is a little bit under the weather, and that is because of the second thing I have to apologize for, which is being a little bit late with the video, just because I actually got kind of sick. A cold kind of hit me out of nowhere last week, and I'm still kind of recovering from it. So, in any case, back and ready to rock and roll now with a new edition of the Weekly Wringer, which, I think we've got a lot to talk about. There's a lot of things happening with this one. I asked you about the Nintendo Wii U, which many of you came and answered about in droves, and I will do what I always do, which is talk about the comments and the conversation that went on with you guys during the course of the week, but I will also give my own opinion, and then lastly, you know how all this goes, I'll ask you a question for next week that I'd like to see you answer so that we can have another one of our delightful Weekly Ringers next week. And next week's question, I think, is, I'm just going to say, it's going to have you really thinking about awesome things that are awesome. Let's leave it at that. Alright, so before I jump into last week's conversation, I always like to welcome our new members, or new contributors I should say, and I do this mostly because I am actually so comfortable with the Weekly Wringer community. I know many of you, I know so many of you by the comments that you posted over the course of time, and it becomes kind of an interesting observation. I just kind of do it by eye and by memory of who has commented before and who has not. The website helps me track that a little bit if I see someone that I don't know. But in any case, I've got a couple people here that I want to draw some attention to as they are newcomers to the site. First is Lifa. Welcome to you, Lifa. Awesome name, I might add. And then, so this is an interesting one too, because I have played Metroid, and I enjoy Metroid, but you know what is an interesting thing is if you go onto the internet, and I only did this because I had always pronounced Zebus as Zeebs, so Zebus Homeboy, because if you want to go out on the internet, take a look at how many different ways there are to pronounce Z-E-B-E-S. The homeworld for Metroid. I think there are probably 1,000 ways to say that word, but apparently Zebus is the right way to say it, even though I'd always said Zeebs. So I was going to be like Zeeb's homeboy, but apparently it's Zebus. In any case, it's out there. I actually had never heard that proper pronunciation before, but apparently that's the way that it's supposed to be pronounced. So welcome to you, Zebus homeboy. And lastly, I thought this was a cool one, Ludwig von Koopa. That's a classic, excellent grab there. I love that name. That's a really, really good one. Welcome to you as well. Welcome to all of you, and thank you for being a part of the Weekly Wringer conversation. Looking forward to seeing what you guys bring to the table with other Weekly Wringers moving forward into the future, and I'm sure there will be many. So last week, let's talk about last week. After I get a little sip here. There we go. That's better. Okay, so let's talk about last week. Last week, I asked you guys a question about the Wii U, and I started thinking about all the things I could ask you about. I talked about this last week, right? All the things that I could be bringing to your attention, all the things I could ask about. But at the end of the day, what seemed the most pertinent question, the question that really was going to tip the scales, and the one I really wanted to ask was, are you looking to buy a Wii U at launch? And then why or why not? Now, I will be honest with you, I never expected this to be close. The fact of the matter is that most of the gaming population does not buy a brand new system when it comes out. They buy it over time, right? That's just a categorical thing. It happens across the board no matter who you're talking to. So I don't want this to seem disparaging against Nintendo. I knew it was going to be lopsided. But just to give you the final count ended up being 21 no's and 6 yeses, which I thought was a pretty good. It was a pretty... from my perspective, I thought it would be more skewed than that. Let's just say that. I thought it was fairly representative, and I thought it did a pretty good job. It's clear that most of you are not interested in buying the Wii U at launch. Some of you are not interested in buying the Wii U at all, And some of you are ready to buy the Wii U now, and some of you are, yeah, I mean, I could probably buy it, but it's going to take some time. So I guess those are really all the camps, right? Let me talk to you, as I always try to do a little bit, is maybe distill a few nuggets of knowledge or a few things that permeated the entire argument that we had over the course of the week. Two things that I saw. And the first one is that a lot of people really, it's not a question of whether they love the Wii U or not. It's a question of money, right? I mean, and I mean, duh, right? I mean, you could sit there at that point and say, you idiot Commodore, of course. Like, I mean, it all comes down to money. And you would be right. I get that. My point is that, when I ask why or why not for the Wii U, I'm expecting to hear all these things about, playability and how, lack of support and blah, 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 blah. And I guess I just was never thinking about the fact that, most people do it. Most people wouldn't buy it if they're not going to get it because of the fact that it costs a lot of money. It's a brand new system, and the price is although it's certainly not along the lines of the price of what I think the next entrants for the 360 and the PlayStation 3 are, whatever those next steps will be. I'm sure the Wii U will be much less expensive than those. I think it's still a significant chunk of change, and obviously there are two choices here. So there are two different models this time, so you can make a decision there, kind of like the 360 was with the arcade and the Pro when it first launched, which may or may not be a good analogy. In any case, I think quite a few of you, and what I really realized moving down the whole list is that everybody's short on cash right now. It's just an economic thing, but I think gamers, are feeling the squeeze just like everybody else in this economy, and I think it's a good point. Forking out cash for a brand new system when you're not really inherently sure what it does is a difficult thing to do. So you guys definitely brought that to my attention. And the other thing that I thought was really interesting is that several of you mentioned that you're still a little bit burned or scared or, marked or scarred from the Wii. And I didn't expect that. I didn't own a Wii, so for me, I didn't hear any of the kind of discontent of it. That someone would buy a Wii and then it would just sit on the shelf and collect dust versus actually get used as a video game system. That whole concept is very foreign to me. As a result, because I didn't buy one. But apparently, that seems to be very widespread. Many of you bought a Wii and you said, "Wow, this is great. This is unbelievable." For some of the very same reasons that many of you are talking about the Wii U right now, and you just kind of like got a little bit disappointed by it because it wasn't everything it was cracked up to be, and the software support wasn't there that you were looking for, what have you, and so on and so forth. Long story even longer, you really weren't that happy with the system, and it ended up kind of burning you and scarring you, so you're not necessarily on board with going with the Wii U yet. I was surprised to hear this as well, but I thought it was a good thing to bring forward. I mean, I totally understand. I think one of the reasons why Microsoft is having a really hard time selling Windows 8 right now is because almost everybody that buys PCs or buys Windows now have really been convinced by the buy edition bias toward Microsoft, as in, you basically buy not every iteration, you buy every other iteration, and that way you're safe. So, you would buy Windows XP, but you would never buy Vista. Windows 7 is great, but Windows 8 is going to be awful, and therefore Windows 9 will be fantastic. So, I think, operating systems these days are getting refreshed a lot more than than consoles are. But if you figure the Wii U was launched in 2006 and it is now 2012 holiday season, we're looking at a 6-year-old console at this point being refreshed by what should be a 6-year-old successor. And many of you are looking at it just in that regard, in that light, and saying, I don't know if I could, being burned from the Wii, that I could really spend the money on the Wii U. Totally get it. All right, let's get into some of the comments specifically that you guys brought to the table, because I think there are a lot of really good things to talk about. Kane Highwind talked about the idea of being really navigated toward the PC now, and that he was really kind of tricked into buying the motion control gimmick. So, two things there. One is that PC gaming is actually quite strong. It's actually the strongest I think it's been in a decade. And it's becoming a kind of de facto standard for many people, because now, with a singular piece of hardware and with an HDMI port on your television, you really essentially have your own game system that does so much more right there. And I can't agree more than that. It's almost like we all, thought that Microsoft's vision of how everything was going to be PC-centric was laughable even 5 years ago. Hence the PS4, the PS3, hence the Xbox 360. And now all of a sudden it's kind of like everything's converging back to the PC again, or at least not necessarily the PC, but everything is getting PC-like function in almost every way, whether it be your phone, a tablet, a full-blown HTPC, or even a game console or a Roku box or whatever you might have. They're all kind of maintaining PC-like functionality, even if they aren't PCs. So it's an interesting thing that's happening to us right now. So I'm not surprised to hear that Kane Highwinds navigated to PC. But otherwise, in terms of buying the motion control gimmick, I'm not willing to go as far as to say that the Wii motion controls were a gimmick. I think motion controls are actually an awesome thing. I think they should be a part of gaming, and I think as the technologies become more robust, I think they will absolutely be a part of the way we play games moving forward. Don't get me wrong, every single enhancement out there is best done as an option, and every option that's out there is best handled with an on-off switch. So just because something is there and available doesn't mean you want to use it. So I could see plenty of people wanting to play, the next Elder Scrolls game and saying, screw this motion control stuff, I'm just going to sit here with my controller and play that way. No argument for me. But to Kane Highwind, motion controls were a gimmick, and therefore it really kind of says, hey, even if you were thinking about buying a Wii U, remember how you got burned by the Wii? It's just a gimmick, don't worry about it. Not sure I agree, but I get what you're saying. DTX 180, not buying. But the Wii U, really the selling factor for DTX 180 is that it's an HD Wii system. Now, remember what I just talked about. The idea that the Wii U is the 6-year successor to the Wii. Do you think you're going to fork out that kind of a cash in order to get a 6-year newer Wii, in order to get a Wii HD, essentially, right? Now, is the Wii U really just a Wii HD? No, I mean, it offers a crap load more functionality in terms of raw horsepower. There's no comparison. But really, when you think about it, even Nintendo's kind of looking at this as like a Wii HD, right? So I don't know that I fault DTX 180 for thinking that way. I'm not sure, and I think it's a good reason not to buy a Wii U if that happens to be your issue. The Wii for me was never really limited by HD. I mean, call me crazy, but I don't think that ever really happened. Yeah, I mean, would I have liked to have been playing Resident Evil 4 on the Wii, which is superb on the Wii, by the way, in HD? Sure, but at the end of the day, it's the experience that's fun, and I'm not sure I'm going to fork out the cash to get a Wii HD just to be able to see it that way or play it that way. So I get the point, and I think I agree. If the Wii U is just Wii HD, then it's probably not worth the money, especially at launch. Mog said yes, and the reason why is because of the innovative controller. So for all of you that don't know about it, the Wii U has like an LCD built in, almost like a tablet. It's basically like a tablet with controls on the end of it. And I actually think this is the real genius behind the Wii U that is either going to be a gimmick or it's going to be amazing. Mog is clearly betting on the fact that this is going to be amazing and not a gimmick, which I think is a completely legitimate way to see things. I think Nintendo has spent a lot of time on this, and hopefully the thing is baked enough of a concept that they're not just releasing something that ends up being a disaster, and something that people have to cover up and, apologize for the rest of their lives, like the Virtual Boy. So Mog is hedging his bet toward the controller being innovative and that being an awesome thing, and it being a real sign of the times of progression of what gameplay